So, Christina, welcome to the pod.
Hey, man. Good to be here.
Yeah, it's good to have you on again. So, second time, and we've had the pleasure of having you on House of Visionaries podcast. And this time is a little bit different. So, we're introducing you as a board member for the House of Visionaries. So, you're on the Board of Visionaries, which is really cool. And you've also just gone through a pretty exciting and different career pivot, I
Pivot.
suppose, which
Yeah,
is really
I
cool, which
have.
I'm excited to get into. But this is the part where I make you really awkward and I talk about you and introduce you to everyone, which is the bit that you'll hate. So yeah, I know this will make you uncomfortable. For those that are based in Boston, they'll probably know Christina pretty well. She's a bit of a legend um, in Boston. And for those that don't, so Christine's background, she's scaled lots of different companies. But the company that she'll probably be most well known for scaling is Rapid 7. She took them from around about 100 people, I think, Christina, to IPO.
But yeah, I joined at 75.
75, so 75 to IPO, and probably one of the most well-known brands in Boston, I would say. So there aren't many people that don't know Rapid 7. And I'm really lucky. I've got to know Christina very well over the last couple of years, and I often describe her as a force of nature, and like a total one-off. Incredible human, incredible mindset, both personally and professionally. And if I was growing a business and it was growing rapidly, it was going crazy, or it was in the trenches, I think Christina's probably the first name on lots of people's list they want by their side in charge. So I'm super excited to have you back on the podcast. And I hope that didn't make you feel too awkward or embarrassed, Christina.
I love you, and I'm just pretending you're talking about somebody else.
So kick things off with the first question. So we're going to ask this question to everybody that's sitting on the board of visionaries when we introduce them. But Um, so you're sitting on the board of visionaries, supporting the community, but what does visionary mean to you?
Oh, that's a loaded question. I mean, I think for me is it's people that have. Do you ever see that quote by Steve Jobs about like here's to the crazy ones? It was a
Yeah,
whole Apple campaign. I actually have that hanging in my living room, which probably speaks volumes about my sanity level. But I think for me, visionary is really about people that have bold, audacious ideas and are willing to take the steps to try to pursue them, right? It's one thing to have an idea, it's another thing to actually take the steps to try to pursue that idea. I asked this, but I'll say it anyway. The reason that I was really drawn to this is that when I first met you, Ben, I immediately pegged you as a visionary. You were willing to think differently. You were willing to think about how to disrupt the market. And if you want to get me really excited about something, you throw in the word disruption, and I'm your girl, right? I love that. Not just for the sake of creating chaos, but rather there's always a better way, right? And I love the pursuit of trying to find what makes the most sense, and pushing through the boundaries to kind of tackle that challenge. So that for me is kind of what a visionary is.
well, here's the crazy ones.
Yeah.
I love that video as well, and yeah, I have to say it's a powerful video, that one. But maybe we're both in that crazy ones category. We're in those crazy,
Probably, yeah. That's probably
we're
why we
two
get along.
creative ones potentially. Okay, and what we want to do is just rewind a little bit and get to know you a little bit better. So if you think about your like early career, who was like your biggest influence growing up on your career, and like how did that shape and mold you? Do you think?
In the earliest part of my career, it was my dad. He and I are really different. He's a triple degree guy from MIT. I have dyscalculia, which is the math form of dyslexia. So, my worst childhood memories are my dad trying to tell me what X equaled. Like, it was a nightmare. So I didn't realize that, we would ultimately come together in business. That's where we really intersected. And it started with, I sort of knew I had an affinity to people and thought when I was going to college that I would study and I hopes of doing some kind of clinical work. And halfway through my degree, I thought, I don't think this is for me. I don't know that I can spend all my time doing this. But whatever is an existential life crisis at age 20, like what the heck am I going to do with my career? And he said, there is this thing called human resources. It's the intersection of psychology and business, and that might be interesting to you. What he was really trying to suggest was like, kid, you're going to need a job. Like, maybe figure this out, and like, here's a place to start. But I think the reason he was so influential on me was that he was a serial entrepreneur. When he graduated with his degrees, he could have either become a professor or started a company. He ended up starting a company with a couple of his friends that turned out to be pretty successful, and then kind of was a repeat offender. So I grew up never knowing what it was like to see a parent have a boss. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. My dad was always sort of, at the helm. And it never occurred to me that that's not how everyone else grew up, right? It was just so, and I got to see, well, I certainly wouldn't have articulated it this way as a younger person, but I got to see my dad's leadership in action. I think that sort of the dominating characteristic that I always took away from his leadership was his fairness. He had a sense of fairness to people. He didn't play games. There was no like real hierarchical stuff going on or whatever. And I got to know a lot of the people that he worked with growing up in that environment. And I was blessed with never being intimidated by, these are my dad's friends, not these are other executives. Right. So I sort of grew up like he could run a business. He was running these very like financially successful businesses, but they were filled with really great people. So even though this is going back, like culture wasn't even a word, but I could see that was an element to what they were building and doing, and then was able to sort of dissect that and translate that as I got a little bit older. But the other piece that I thought was quite brilliant about him was he never missed a school play or the proverbial like recorder concert or whatever crap my brother and I were into when we were little. Like, he was always present for that. So much like you, I know how committed you are to your business, but you spend your weekends with your family. My dad was exactly the same way. So he created this really amazing role modelship for me about how you can balance all of it.
Yeah, amazing. This podcast has got nothing to do with me, but I resonate with so much of that because my story and journey is like so similar in terms of
Yeah, I know it is.
my dad as well, and setting a similar pattern. So I absolutely love that. It's very nostalgic. When you look back to that stuff to make you feel good, to put a smile on your face, to like fill you with like makes you feel good when you think about that.
I'm just really proud of him. I mean, I think I'm really proud of what he was able to accomplish and how present he was. I mean, this is going back to a time where like men did the business and the women took care of the family, right? And yet he was a very present dad.
Yeah.
I had an amazing childhood, right? And then it came back, and I think I've shared this story for you before, but like when I was first going out on my own, I got my feet wet, whatever. But when I first went out on my own in consulting, my dad tried to like help me out and hooked me up with the CEO of one of the companies he was on a board of, thinking like, hey, and do you a solid, honey. You're like, here's a piece of business for you. And I met with the CEO and I'm like, I'm not taking this work, Dad. Like, I appreciate it. This CEO sucks and this company's going to go out of business. And he was not happy with me. And he's like, I'm on the board. You're like 20 something. What the hell do you know? The company went out of business a year later. And it was a really good moment for us because when I was growing up, it was always Fred's kid. And all of a sudden it became like, oh, that's Christina's dad.
Yeah.
And I think he realized, like, I don't know what kind of voodoo you're doing, honey, but like everything can't be solved on a spreadsheet. You have some kind of knowledge and some kind of expertise I will never understand, but how great to be able to join forces and figure that out.
Yeah.
So I feel very fortunate to have grown up in an environment like that.
Absolutely, very cool. So where'd you go now for inspiration? Might still be your dad, but where'd you go now?
Yeah, a little bit. Corey, my former CEO, Corey Thomas from Rapid7, is probably one of the most well-rounded, extraordinary humans I know. I base that on his intelligence, his integrity, his friendship. He's been an extraordinary friend to me. I got the privilege of literally sitting next to him. We were either sharing an office or sitting 3 inches away from each other, whatever, for my time at Rapid7. So for 14 years, I got to sit next to literally one of the smartest people I've ever met. And I say this without exaggeration. I don't think there's ever been a day where I was next to him where I didn't learn something new. And that for me is I'd much rather learn from people and their perspective and their point of view, et cetera, than like out of a textbook. I was never a great traditional student, but put me with smart visionary people and I love it. So yeah, Corey's one of them, but I take influence from everywhere. It could be a movie. It could be, a song. I mean, I am highly influenced by smart, talented, visionary people.
You've gone from CPO to your own venture. maybe stealing some of your dad's entrepreneurial flair, but you've gone off and you're doing your own thing. Like, how are you feeling about it? How's it going?
I feel a little bit guilty admitting this. I'm happier than I've been in a really long time. And it has nothing to do with Rapid 7. I mean, that was an incredible journey, and I'm so proud of what we were able to build there. But without going into too much depth about it, I had a life-changing moment where I was really sick and, wasn't sure if I would ever even was going to be able to go back to work. And thankfully I'm healthy right now, but I have cancer that does not have a cure. So even though I'm healthy now, I know it's going to come back at some point. And that sort of having that stop clock on your life, like really put a fire under me where I've always tried to live my best possible life. But I'm in a moment of my life now where I'm like, you know what? My kids are older. I have more flexibility than I've ever had. I don't want to die in a job that I've been in for 14 years. I feel like I have one big thing left in me. And
Yeah.
for me, I'm trying to do work that I absolutely am passionate about, but do it A, on my own terms, and B, with a much bigger impact than just working for one company. So, my perfect world, I get to do the work that I love doing, but I really want to try to figure out a way to help as many startups as I can understand the criticality of the people, having the right people strategy and the right culture as early in their life cycle as possible to help them thrive.
Yeah. Amazing. Without putting like a negative spin on, what's been the hardest bit? What's been the toughest bit of starting like your own thing and getting going and getting in the flow?
Figuring out how to scale it, because like we're very fortunate, we already have clients, we're making money, we've only been at it for 2 months, so I feel very lucky. But like, I want to go big, and not that not that I'm doing it just for the money, but if I want to do it, I want to make the money. So how do you scale it in a way that makes it sort of repetitive and a good thing? So that's the hard part for me to figure out.
Well, I'm super excited to see what you're going to do with it next and how it keeps continuing to grow. I always enjoy our catch up, see how you're
Thank
getting
you.
on.
Yeah, me too. Well, we've learned a lot from you, so it's a good partnership.
It's very, very kind of you. I'll do anything I can to help. You don't know this is coming, but we've added in some community questions. You can either
Have at
thank
it.
Carrie for this.
Okay.
We've got some quick fire community questions.
Okay.
If you didn't pursue a career in HR, what would it have been? Like if you could do anything else, what would you do?
Race car driver.
Right. I know you're into F1.
I'm into F1, but I mean, before I even knew about F1 when I was a little kid, I mean, that's such a weird thing for like, especially a little girl to say, but I was obsessed with Porsches at a really young age. And I thought I wanted to be a race car driver. I mean, that's not a particularly practical thing to do. But that would have been something I would have thought
Yeah.
was cool.
And definitely alludes back to the crazy ones, right?
Yeah, for sure. I'm also really small, so I would have fit in the car. That's
Yeah.
the thing I have going for me. Basketball was not going to be my thing.
Yeah. Did you ever go-karting? What are you like actually driving? Are you actually all right? Have you done track days and stuff like that or not? Or have you ever had a go
Yeah,
at it?
no, I have.
Have you?
Yeah, I would have been a crappy race car driver,
Yeah.
but it's fun to think about.
But you're gonna. Yeah. Love
Yeah.
it. What's your go-to coffee?
Go to coffee?
Yeah.
I don't drink a ton of it, but if I do, French vanilla with extra skim milk and 2 Truvias or like stevia.
There you go. So if anyone wants to get some advice from you, if they hit your LinkedIn inbox offering one of those coffees, they've got a good chance of getting some
They
advice.
probably get a better chance if they say, we'll like treat you to water with some lemon in it. Like I'm trying to be pretty good these days.
Love it.
I'm
Okay,
a cheap
last
kid.
question, last community question. What's the one HR trend you think is totally overhyped? Putting you on the
That
spot here.
that AI is going to replace everyone's job. I think AI is like a brilliant, incredible addition to everything that we've got going on right now. But I think I hear so many people terrified to pursue it because they're afraid they're going to be replaced. And I think that's just such a horrible attitude, right? I mean, there's always going to be innovations in technology. I think it's our responsibility to figure out how to optimize them to make ourselves as effective as possible. So I see it as a massive enabler and win. But boy, I've talked to so many people that are really concerned about adopting it because they're afraid it's going to put them out of business.
Very interesting. I certainly agree with elements of that. I think AI is on the way and already is here, and it's a big shake-up. And I think AI will end up winning the race. That good people will always be here. I
Absolutely.
was saying to our team the other day, like AI probably will replace like good people or okay people, but those
Yeah.
that are world class at their jobs, it won't even come fucking close.
No, I totally
But
agree.
we've
But
got
if
to
you
the
bring like really great technology with really great people, like that could be amazing,
yeah,
right? It
yeah,
could be amazing.
very cool.
House of Visionaries, though, Ben, I will say, I love the fact that you all are surfacing so many of these topics for people to explore, because I think a lot of people are kind of having them in the background and it's more fear-based, but you're kind of putting it out there and then offering up, here's how we're thinking about it, or here's how this group's thinking about it, and actually involving people in getting in front of it.
One last question for you, Christina. So, if you could redesign the people function from scratch, what's the first thing you'd throw out, and what are you protecting at all costs?
Oh my God. I would throw out the entire HR playbook, because I think the thing that's like crazy to me, my daughter is 2 years into her HR career at a great company in Boston, and she's studying for a certification. And she was reading to me these questions, and I was like no one would ever do it that way, or they shouldn't do it that way. And she's like, well, she's trying to use logic about how people actually work, but she's getting the wrong answers. And
Yeah,
I was like, this is great. Like, I just think, we live in a world where it's evolved. When I started my career, there was just the transition from personnel to HR. And I was, candidly, like not thrilled about it then, because I was already like, they're calling it resources, like people aren't resources. And over the last couple of decades, it's obviously evolved, right? But still, most of the people that you meet are focused on compliance, process, like the right, because that's what it says. Like, I just don't think that's how you build healthy businesses. And I'm not crapping on process, or, we all need some of that and some guidelines, but you can't policy your way to building a really healthy company. So in my perfect people world, if I was going into a startup, I would start with the culture as the first activity and say, who are we and who do we aspire to be as an organization? And then build everything else to support that. You build your hiring processes and make sure that you're not like, have you ever met anyone who says, I'm not a team player, right?
yeah,
Everyone identifies as a team player, whether they're willing to really internalize that or not. And if companies say collaboration or teamwork is really important to them, you can't just look at someone's CV and say, oh, they played football, therefore they are a team player. You have to ask the second, third level questions to really make sure if what they mean by that is what you mean by that as a company. Once you can do that, then you can really sort of weave it in. You go hiring, how you performance manage people, how you promote people, how you reward people, how you part ways with people. I think that's how I would completely reinvent the field if somebody gave me a
yeah.
magic.
And how much of that do you think? So, what stage in your experience? Obviously, culture's your thing, right? Amongst many others, but culture's like your real thing. At what point do you feel companies start to invest and look at that? 100 people, and then they go, "Oh crap, this is starting to get a bit
When I
dangerous."
think they do, or when they should?
When do you think they do on average at the moment? What's your in
Probably
your
they wait
experience?
until, I don't know that it's even a number. I mean, 100's probably a decent place to start. But in today's world, I'd actually say they're starting to surface it, whether they can articulate it or not. They're starting to see it because so many companies are either hybrid or remote, and they're hiring people that, 10 years ago, everyone would go into an office and it was a little bit easier to say, hey, Ben and Christina and Laura are sitting together and we can work through things. But if
Yeah,
you're in one location, I'm in another, whatever, like, and we don't have the opportunity to build trust at the same rate or build relationships, the faster you grow, the more challenging those things become. So I think sure, maybe 100's the right number where you start to see people hire someone. But I think it's interesting to me where people usually start. It's not always hiring a chief people officer to design what that should look like. It's, we're going to hire a fairly junior person who can set up our benefits programs or set up our whatever. Oh, by the way, culture is kind of important, so can you do that too? And it's probably a person who either has zero experience or the exactly opposite skill set to be able to do those kinds of things.
interesting. What's your hot take on culture at the moment? What's your like thing that you're like really vibing on, or something that's like a real hot take that you're like just obsessed with, and that's culture specific?
I don't know, I'll manufacture a hot take. I think it's as I started, doing more of this consulting work in this new phase, I'm on a mission. Like, I think your chief people officer or somebody who can really help you set this up is probably one of the most critical first hires a company makes, right? Because I think I've had the benefit of, most of the companies I've joined have been in those pretty early stages. Rapid7 was 75, Fant was like 150. And it was fine. We were growing at a pace that made sense. But I've also joined a company where there were no employees. I joined the company before we started hiring people. And that was magical because we really got to set up. We knew exactly what we were looking for from day one on the leadership team, for example. So I would argue that it could be, if you have the right person, it could be one of the most incredibly valuable, thoughtful, and strategic roles you hire into your company.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think especially if the CEO or founder isn't, let's say it's maybe their first rodeo, or they aren't heavily people focused.
Absolutely.
Pairing them with a great CPO is almost essential.
Yeah.
There are some founders and CEOs that have that natural inclination. They've done it before. They have a heavy lean toward people. And I think they sometimes do a great job of it. But normally in the typical founder these days of a scale up would be someone who's heavily technical or
That's right. Yeah, I'm working with a company now that is amazing. Their CEO is a first-time CEO, brilliant guy, figuring it out, and definitely has like a natural gravitation towards it, but is also trying to grow, scale, raise money, like do everything. And he knows he can't do it all on his own. So you can, they're probably around 100 people too. I think, yeah, that's incredibly advantageous to have a CEO who gets it. And they can carry it for a while, but at some point they just need help because they're focused on everything else.
Do you think CEOs that don't get it can be successful these days? Do you think it's possible for a CEO that doesn't get it to make it? I'm not sure if it is anymore.
No, I don't, honestly. Or I've not seen someone be successful who doesn't get it. Doesn't mean there's a big distinction between getting it and knowing how to do it, right? I don't know too many people that know how to do it because it's just a different, it's like I couldn't do a CFO job. I don't have those skills. But I think there's a lot of CEOs that, like, once you can tie the work to their return on investment, like, everyone assumes that the culture is the touchy-feely stuff. It's so not. I don't care how brilliant your product is or how much funding you got or whatever. Like, all those things can be great. And even if AI or whatever technology advances we have can benefit your business, we're not replacing human beings anytime in the near future, right? Maybe for a couple of roles, but like, people still have to do the work. If you can't get inspired, if you can't inspire your team to be on the mission that your company's trying to do, I think you're just rolling a rock uphill.
Yeah.
So even if it doesn't show up for a little while, it will show up at some point.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm like 100% on board. I'm completely all in on culture, but it is perceived to be really fluffy. It's not tangible. You can't quantify it. Like, in your experience, how have you seen people influence the board or the CEO to get into it, so it doesn't feel fluffy and untangible? And
honestly, that's a fantastic question. I haven't seen anyone including myself, be able to sell it well. I'm in a really unique, advantageous position because I've actually happened to work at companies that have scaled and been incredibly profitable. So at least I have enough of a track record that I can say, like, I'm not making this up. Like, I've got a handful of companies now that we can point to say this works. But I am trying to figure out, as part of this new business, how do you quantify the return on investment? Is it, turnover? If we do a pulse check on the day that I start working with you and 6 months later, did we increase engagement? Did we, I don't know. We're trying to figure it out. I don't know exactly how to do it yet, but I think there's something there.
It's interesting. I'm going to give that some thought.
Yeah, if you have any ideas, let me know.
I think that for people to take culture more seriously and give it probably the budget, the investment, time, the energy that it needs, you need to be able to tie it back to something tangible, which is so difficult. Do you know what I think? I think, like, people can just feel it, though. I know that is completely untangible and it's not what we've just been talking about, but I think the CEO and the board, they just feel it. You just walk into a business and you just feel it. And I know it's fluffy, can't quantify it, but I think CEOs and boards that buy into it is when they walk into a company and they go, "Oh God, it's good." The people are good.
I think you're right.
Like going somewhere.
Yep.
but you can't. It's hard to get. And then through experience, they're like, "Oh, great, yeah, great. Let's keep investing in this. This is brilliant. This is great."
That's,
But
yeah, I think that's
change
right.
someone's mind and convince them is difficult, I think.
I think there has to be something tangible, right? I may have shared this story with you before, but one of our board members at Rapid 7, is a tough cookie. He really, or tough biscuit, as you might say. Like he's amazing, but like an incredibly quantitative kind of guy, and definitely was, a naysayer to culture. And I won't bore you with the whole long story, but for 6 years, he was like, we'd be sitting in board meetings, like, I don't really care about this stuff, Christina. That's like, you're basically wasting my time. I care about these tactical things. And I was like, you know, candidly, totally disagree with you. So I'll give you everything that you want, and then I'm going to give you what I think you need to know. And I was relentless. And every board meeting for 6 years, I kept rolling that ball uphill. And finally, after the year 6, he pulled me aside after a board meeting. He said, I finally get it. I
Yeah.
finally get it. And that to me was one of the best moments of my career, because I thought, oh my gosh, if I can change the way he thinks, maybe there's something to this. So I've got to figure out how to take what's in my head and figure out how to quantify it, make it relevant for every business leader.
That sounds like a job, a Cape Cod with not with a coffee, 'cause you don't drink it, with a water and lemon, with sitting out in the
Yes,
sunshine, take a day and break it down.
that sounds fantastic.
Well, Christina, we're at time. It's been amazing to talk as always. I always find our conversations full of energy, inspiration. It's impossible to not be around you and feel energized and want to go and do something cool. And it makes me really happy to hear that you're happy and loving this stage in your career. So yeah, and thank you so much as always for supporting the community.
Thank you. Likewise. I'm like looking over your left shoulder at the Richard Branson book, and I'm like, of course you like Richard Branson. Like, I love Richard Branson, right?
Yeah, well, going back to your story around
Visionaries and people that are willing to do things differently. And,
yeah,
and I love that.
the crazy ones.
The crazy ones.
I'm also going back to your story. As I resonate with so much. You mentioned about having like the number version of dyslexia. My dad's dyslexic. My nan's dyslexic. I'm also dyslexic. Yeah, heavily. Um, so is Richard Branson talking about dyslexia and how the brain works with dyslexia and around dyslexia. So it's really interesting, and I think like people with any form of neurodiversity, I think their brains normally work a little bit differently, and I think that's a superpower, and I think it creates intrigue in different things. Like there's things that I'm horrendous at. There's things that I probably over-index, maybe slightly better than the average person at. But that's probably because the way my brain works and have been dyslexic. Maybe similar to you, you probably under.
I think so too. I mean, I think it's incredibly, I love how you reframe it as a superpower, because I think some people can view it as a disability and a liability. And I view it as, once I figured out what was wrong with me, because now kids get diagnosed when they're quite small. I didn't know that I had an issue until I was in college. I just thought I was really dumb. And then I realized, like, oh my God, like I had a professor who had me tested, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. It was such a gift to find out. And I immediately went from, oh, I'm not dumb. I just learned differently. And
Yeah.
then it became my competitive advantage, right? So I think you have to be in a good mind space to say, like, these are the gifts I've been given. How do I optimize them?
Yeah, 100%. I don't think I've really figured that out for myself personally, probably into the last couple of years. Like figuring out that maybe like my brain does work differently, and maybe other people's work differently too. And kind of leaning into that and realizing
Yeah.
like what you're good at, what you're not good at, what you need people to help you. Like nobody's perfect. I always
Yep.
say it's like no one's perfect, but it doesn't stop us striving for perfection anyway. But
Yeah.
it's like you've got to aim for it, but you've also got to have the awareness to be like, I'm actually not great at that. I need some help, but I'm quite good at this, so I'll lean into that.
Yep.
And that, I think being self-aware of those types of things is really important.
Yeah. I think being self-aware is great. And I think it's also, I mean, again, another plug. You did not ask me to do this, but I think it's why I got involved with the House of Visionaries. Is I very rarely get the opportunity to work with like-minded, audacious people. When I have the opportunity to do that, I love that. I love, you put a bunch of people that are willing to think differently in one place, really great stuff happens.
It's powerful. The energy is inspirational, right? You get in the room and you come out of it feeling like you're topped up for another year and you're like ready to go.
Yeah, exactly.
You go and I'm ready to do the best work of my career, which is what we all want to be doing when we're career defining work, and we want to have some fun while we do it.
Exactly.
That's what we're trying to do. Build a community that does amazing work, but we have some bloody fun when we do it as well.
Yep.
Love it. What a
Agreed.
great place. What a great place to end. Well,
Okay.
Christina, thank you so much for joining. And yeah, I'm excited. I'll see you in a few months when I'm out in
Yeah. All right. See you soon. Thank you both.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.